Okay, welcome to another SEO hangout slash rant slash diatribe with Josh Bachynski. That is, c'est moi. This week I have some very interesting little tidbits and leaks for you. Just some kind of smaller stuff, but very interesting kind of stuff in the kind of lull that we're in now where Google hasn't released anything major lately, as far as I know, knock on wood. So I thought it would be a great time to release some of these little interesting little SEO leaks and SEO tidbits that I've been holding on to because of all the big stuff that was happening. So it's just totally random. There's no rhyme or reason to them, so I'm just going to go through them all. So the first one is about Panda, and I asked John Mueller if Panda traffic, because as you know, I've been talking about for quite some time, that the Panda algorithm seems to work on usage metrics. And they call that quality content, but the way John Mueller has already admitted they track it is through usage metrics. How users use your site, how they go to Google, search, click on a result, go to your site, and what do they do from there? Do they go back to Google? Do they select another result? Do they go through the site? Are they return visitors? Those kinds of things. And John Mueller, I wondered, well, would AdWords or direct traffic affect Panda and your other quality scores, the other quality algos that they're using? And I asked John Mueller this, and he says, no, only the organic traffic is what matters for Panda. And he didn't understand why I asked the question. He's like, no, only organic traffic matters. And so, of course, this is another confirmation that they're using metric optimization. They're using your metrics to determine whether or not your page is a quality page or not. If people bounce from it en masse, they're not satisfied by it, then that's a good indication that it's not necessarily a quality page, right? So he said, and he also said that, quote, great content triggers, quote, direct signals and encourages indirect signals, such as, and I quote, recommendations and links and things like that. So again, quote, great content triggers direct signals, that's a quote, and encourages also indirect signals, such as recommendations and links like that. And the last part's a quote as well. So there's both direct signals they're looking for there and indirect signals as well. It seemed to work together for them to kind of get their best guess, their best algorithmic guess of whether or not your content is of high quality. Okay, so the next one is about cross-domain dupe content. And again, I've mentioned this many times before, and so I'll just mention it very quickly. You don't really have to worry about dupe content unless it's cross-domain dupe content from site A to site B. And that has a trust factor, right? That if you have duplicate content, that's one of these quality factors that tells them that maybe you're not the most trustworthy site. So it decreases trust, one. Two, it also, very interestingly, John Mueller did mention recently, I've never heard him say this before, that it does bubble up, and I quote, it bubbles up to the, quote, manual action team. So we also have the manual action team looking as to whether or not your site's a scraper site or not. Of course, because the main issue in SEO is whether or not, when there's duplicate content involved, is that did you scrape it? Are you a scraper site? Are you just scraping people's content and then ranking that, or trying to rank that? So that's what they're trying to avoid. And it's kind of interesting to show that John Mueller had to say that, because that's obviously kind of an admission of failure that they can't algorithmically determine, and he's fully admitted, they can't algorithmically determine who wrote the content first, really, because they don't spider every page every second of every day. So there could be, if there was a week or 2 weeks or a month before they got back to this page or that page, it could be a problem. So I'll talk about how to combat more dupe content issues like that in a little bit, such as right now. So the indexer issues. Yes, so indexing. So that's the problem, is that it's a problem for a number of reasons. One, it's a problem to make sure your content gets indexed right away. Two, it's a problem to make sure your backlinks, if you're making any, get indexed right away, so you get the credit for those backlinks. Three, it's an issue if you want to delete spammy backlinks that you made, if you want to get them indexed right away so Google knows that the links are no longer there. So the question is, how do you index all this content all over the web, whether it's on your site or not? Well, there's a bunch of different ways, and a bunch of different secrets, and I'll give them all to you now. So the first thing is that you can submit the page to Google through Webmaster Tools, or you can ping the bot using PubHub, SubHub, or some kind of similar thing. If you don't know what that is, just watch my video again and Google these things. You can also new content on your site also increases your being spidered. Being spidered. The problem is that submitting to Google and pinging the bot is only going to increase the spider rate if it's new content. That's the problem. If it's existing content, Google has already spidered it and already at that time determined what its crawl rate is going to be based on its perceived importance and its relation to freshness, right? So again, submitting an existing page you already know about or pinging the bot to go to an existing page you already know about is not going to increase the amount they crawl it. They're not going to crawl it any sooner when you do that. Same thing with a backlink page. If you can submit it to the indexer you want all you like, or you can ping the bot to come over and look at it all you like. If it's new content, that will increase the speed in which they index it. But if it's existing content, it will not, because they already have set the crawl rate that page is going to have based on its relative importance in terms of authority, trust, and freshness, right? If it's a new topic or not, if it's new, fresh content on on queries, they have algorithmically determined freshness would be important for the end user, right? Something new would be more important for the end user. So how do you do that then? How do you get them to spider existing content faster? Well, there's a couple little tricks you can use. The first is the +1 button. People have done testing. Dan over in Australia did some testing, and the +1 button, if you +1 a page, for new content, it will be spidered within 6 minutes. So that's the fastest way I know of getting new content spiders within 6 minutes. And he never tried the test on existing content, but I'm betting dollars to donuts it would probably get the spider over there faster too if a bunch of +1s happened, especially if they're detecting change on that page. But really, the only tried and true and tested ways to get the spider to spider old content, existing content, is this. There's two ways. One, if you own the content, you can change the content, you can edit it, then you can update the you can make the spider come over to spider it by updating the date signals. So if you have an updated by at the bottom, you update that on a regular basis. Or if you have the date in the title, like I like to use the date in the title sometimes, you can change that as well. Also, or if they detect after spidering a couple times, you change this page every couple of days, the spider, and if it is in a relative, the spider will come over to spider it more. Again, if you change it on a regular basis, and if it is also in a niche that freshness is important. So those are two variable qualities here. So if you change it on a daily basis, but it's evergreen content, doesn't really matter. It will spider more, but not that much. But if you change it on a daily basis, and it's content that, it's new hockey scores or something, then Google will come over and spider it quite a bit. The other way is, as far as I understand how this works, the other way is updating your sitemap. John Mueller has specifically stated, he kind of, in a lazy hangout in the long days of not this last summer, but the previous summer, John Mueller admitted to some of the whitehead SEOs that were hanging out with him that day that if you never lie in your sitemap that you upload to Webmaster Tools, if you never lie in it, then Google will trust it and they will come on the dates you say. If the page is new and you've never lied, the page has been updated, they will honor the sitemap. That's point blank, almost verbatim, coming from John Mueller. And so I would trust him on that. It seems to bear true whenever I've bothered to use the sitemap. Okay, but what if you don't own the content and you're trying to get them to backlink to spider backlink pages for you, or whatever kind of pages, or when you're trying to do branding or trying to SEO for your name or whatnot, or trying to do the word escapes me at the moment, but you're trying to SEO Google for your name and or take various pages that have your name down on the rankings, right? How do you get them to spider content that doesn't belong to you, that you can't edit? Well, quite frankly, if you don't own it and you're not worried whether or not it will be deranked or taken off the SERP, you can always submit it to the web spam form. The Google standard web spam form, just Google web spam form, and you'll find it. Form, that's F-O-R-M, their web spam form, and make a submission. Say this is the spammiest site ever, and put the URL in there of the exact page you want spidered. My tests show, and I've done this numerous times, my tests show that page will be spidered within 7 days. Because they got to process it through their algorithm first. They got to spider it before their penalty algorithms can process it, and then before a human being can actually go look at it, if their algorithms say that there could be something possibly wrong with this site. They don't look at every page manually. At least I don't think they do. They never have said they do, but they have said they have algorithms that will check, and then it'll bubble up. It'll bubble up if it requires someone to look at it. So if you don't care whether it's ranking or not necessarily, but you want to get it spidered right away, especially if you've deleted links or you want to get pages off the SERP, submit it to the web spam form, and it will get cached pretty quick. Okay. Speaking of making changes to other people's pages, negative SEO came up very recently, and a different kind of negative SEO attack. We've all heard about negative SEO with linking and things like that, but what about social? Can you use social to negative SEO people? The answer is yes. Oh no. The answer is yes. Boo. You know, you shouldn't be like a da-da-da-da. You should be like, oh no. Yes, the answer is yes. You can negative SEO people with social. John Mueller has completely point blank admitted it. People asked, how can you do negative SEO on social? Can this happen? And he responded, yes, it can happen. I couldn't believe he admitted it. All you have to do is copy their incomplete page, the complete text, put that into a highly ranking or highly trusted public social page like Facebook or Google+. And that page, if it doesn't have too much else on it going on, if it is more trusted and more authoritative and not as penalized as the other page you copied it from, it can outrank them in the SERPs and you can bump them down. So you could imagine, of course, in your head, you could just repeat this, right? You just, essentially, you do manual scraping. You copy and paste it to a bunch of press release sites and a bunch of social and verbatim. And because it has a higher authority, Google, unfortunately, in their infinite wisdom, believes that means that that page should rank more, even if somebody wrote it first and somewhere else. So the way to protect yourself from that, and or the caveat, the way to make sure that negative SEO tactic works, is that the site you're targeting, that you're copying from, has to be, fairly untrusted, fairly spammy, and or have some penalty or problems, because then Google will trust it less, and then and not very authoritative, a lower page rank or whatever, lower trust rank as well. Or trust flow, citation flow, if you want to use the Majestic particular ranking, who's its. And then it's possible to get Facebook pages and Google Plus pages ranking higher for the exact same content you just copied from their site. It's essentially manual scraping is what it is. So watch out for that. How do you protect yourself against that? Well, you can install JavaScript so people just can't copy paste easily. They'd have to go into their cache and get it, or actually know how to code a scraper to do it. That at least gets rid of some of them, right? Because they won't bother to do it if it's hard. Also, just try to be as squeaky clean as possible. Try not to be hit by Panda or hit by Penguin. Try not to have any of these kind of or manual penalties. Try not to have any of this kind of spammy stuff going on. Try to use some best practices to make the best content possible, so that people, when they get there, they'll like your site and they'll actually convert. And who knows, maybe they'll actually link to you, like this real mythical link, like a unicorn that Google thinks happens when people like your content, like they're still running a blog or something, like it's 1998. Okay, another thing that John Mueller did admit is that negative SEO is possible with links. This is kind of important for a couple of reasons. One, on the one hand, Google used to say it's impossible. It's theoretically possible, but it's like practically impossible. And now they've changed their story entirely, and they've mentioned it a couple times, but John Mueller mentioned it again, and so I just want to say kind of what he said verbatim. He basically admitted point blank negative SEO is possible with links, like with links specifically, if for sites that are on the cusp, again, for sites that have a fairly high commercial anchor keyword text or very spammy backlink looking pages, like spammy looking blog posts or spammy looking forum profiles or whatever. And the important thing is that he used to say, again, and I just mentioned this, but he used to say there was no way possible. He said, theoretically it's possible, but practically it's impossible, and he used to be very dismissive to any negative SEO, again, like just a couple months ago. Now his answer is quite different for the last couple of months. His answer essentially is, he used to say there's no way possible. Now he says, send all the examples to me. He doesn't say there's. He's done a complete 180 in his answer. So you know there was some meeting. You know Google realizes that the shite has hit the proverbial SEO fan, and because people are having trouble ranking in black hat weights, they've just gone the complete negative SEO route, and it's just rampant. I have dozens of people who've contacted me about negative SEO. So yeah, so it's very interesting just to note the change in their public relations. They used to say that it's theoretically possible, but it's practically impossible. Now he says, send me the examples, right? Send me all the examples you can because I want to check this out. So they know very well it's happening. They know very well it can happen. And again, try to make sure your site is as squeaky clean as possible because really, quite frankly, other than running 6 or 7 different sites, there is very little defense against it because Google is a bunch of arrogant people. I really had to bite my tongue there. Okay, and they allowed negative SEO totally to happen. Okay, here's another interesting thing, is that there seems to be, and I've mentioned this before, but they were talking about it again, so I'll mention it again, is that there seems to be some kind of trending traffic algorithm where if you just get traffic from anywhere, direct traffic, just people using traffic just through Chrome or Firefox, which are browsers that Google does have complete access to the data for the back end. You forget that, read your terms and conditions for Firefox. You'll forget that Google dumped a couple $1 billion into Firefox a few years ago and essentially owns that browser, or at least owns the back end of it. And Chrome, of course, is their browser as well. There seems to be really good evidence that there's some kind of trending traffic algorithm that doesn't even have to flow through their SERP, that you can get direct traffic or traffic from social networks. And of course, remember, Google has a backdoor deal with nearly every social network that exists or a partner thereof, right? I can show you the page where they have a back-end deal directly with Disqus, with Reddit, you know, with other social networks like this, the smaller social networks, and of course Reddit and Disqus are not small by any stretch of the imagination. And they do have OAuth deals to get back-end information from different places. And they also scrape all the feeds, so if you're getting traffic from feeds, from RSS feeds, they can track all that too. So it really does seem that getting more traffic will help you rank. And so we're not really sure if it's trending traffic from all over the place, or if it's Chrome traffic, or if they're maybe using the analytics plugin for your site, Google Analytics. I strongly doubt it because that would break their terms and conditions there, but it's entirely possible. And in any regards, another thing, so it really does seem that the trending traffic helps, and a lot of people are ranking on kind of like a multi-channel strategy, where you have RSS feeds, you have, you know, if you make a video, you also make a podcast out of it, and you send it to iTunes and SoundCloud. Essentially, you send your content, duplicated or not, to as many different sources as possible. And, you know, I never really understood how this works or why it would work, but people swear by it, and it really does seem to be just some evidence coming back that if you just proliferate the internet with all of your content all over the place, if it gets trickling people coming through, you know, on their RSS feeds or whatnot, or through Pinterest or through the different social channels, or through the different video or iTunes or SoundCloud, different podcasts and whatnot, it really does seem to give you a ranking boost. So I can't really understand how, given that John Mueller also admitted in the same hangout that Panda only looks at organic traffic. So I haven't put my finger on exactly what it is. It could all be coincidence, but more and more people are swearing by it. So if you have the ability to automatically syndicate this content out there, you might want to give it a shot, because you might be surprised to see that it does actually get you real traffic of people trickling through, and then that gives you a residual kind of a ranking boost as well. Who knows? Maybe the traffic coming through then searches your brand on Google, because this is another thing that John Mueller mentioned in the exact same conversation. This is from September 27th, by the way. John Mueller mentioned in the exact same conversation that, and he strongly implied that people doing a domain search is a ranking or trust signal. That if a lot of people are searching for your brand, so if I'm trying to rank redapples.com and I'm called Red Apples Inc. So just picture this with me. So say I proliferated all my content all over the place. I was a squirrel crapping all over the place with all my RSS feeds, and I made podcasts of these videos, and I put it on SoundCloud and iTunes and every place. And then people sell packages like this, right? You can just content proliferation packages. You can't just spew your content all over the place. And so say you got trickle of people coming in, 100, 200, 300 people. Now say maybe they didn't even convert, but say maybe they were curious about you, or you piqued their curiosity. And so they searched your brand, so they searched Red Apples Inc. or Red Apples on Google, saw redapples.com, clicked it, and essentially went back to the same site. But people do stuff like that, right? It's entirely possible, and John Mueller did kind of directly imply that people searching your brand on Google can boost your ranking. So I don't know if there's a content proliferation strategy there. Maybe that's how it's working. Or who knows, maybe there's a microworkers or a shorttask.com kind of task for you to try. Say, hey people, just search my brand. I'm called I'm called Phillips Sparkmouth Ginger Ale. So they search Phillips Sparkmouth. It's a local brewery here in Victoria. That wasn't a product placement. They didn't pay me for that, by the way. It's just good stuff. And I had it here, so I'm using it as an example. So they search that, and they click on it. As long as they stay, that's probably a positive signal. It's probably a good signal. And John Mueller did directly imply that they use it. So you can check the Hangout yourself if you want to kind of see where I'm getting this from. But that's how I understood what he was saying. And I have heard him say that before, and I have seen tests of kind of showing that this works as well for anyone who's followed my previous videos. Okay, here's another interesting thing that John Mueller did admit. He admitted on the 23rd, I asked him, does duplicate content also apply to images? Is there a duplicate content problem for duplicate images? Also based on the Matt Cutts video that he put out a few months ago. And the answer from both of them is no. There is no problem with duplicate images at this time. At this time. Matt Cutts said in his video from, 6 or 8 months ago, whatever it was, that stock images, which is duplicate images, is a fairly surprising indicator of low quality, but not precise and not exact enough, and they were not using it at the time. And John Mueller was just asked a month ago, and he said, no, we're not using duplicate images. Duplicate images is not a problem. We know people go and buy stock images, and so we're not going to hit them for those kinds of problems. For web ranking, for image ranking, it is a problem, he said. And so just for those of you guys who are trying to do image ranking in Google, it is a problem to have duplicate content, duplicate images. It's the same problem for trying to rank duplicate content in web, in that they will choose the one they want to rank. It's like leaving it to the judges in the UFC. You may not like the decision they make of what image or what page they want to rank if they find it's duplicated. So they usually choose the most authoritative one and the most trusted one. So if you want to test whether or not you're authoritative and trusted, go ahead and put dupe content on your site and see if it ranks. Then you know your trust and your authority must be pretty good if you're ranking above other people for their own content. But if you do that too much, again, it is a trust issue if you're doing it too much. Although I admit Google is not very good at determining that, and it is possible that your authority and trust can be so high, you can just steal other people's content and they will rank you anyway. And you could do this for quite some time before they realize that most of your content is duplicated. As long as you don't get a penalty, that would continue to work. I can imagine how that would continue to work. Okay. Finally, some people were complaining my videos were too long, so I'll make this a short one for you, so it's easier. And I'll end with a terrifying. I'd love to end on a happy note. Instead, I will end on a terrifying note. Google is looking into two separate things, admitted by John Mueller, and this has come up a couple times. One is they are looking very carefully at how they can penalize SEO companies that have done bad SEO for clients. Someone had the audacity to come to his Hangout, and audacity in my opinion, because I find that it's reprehensible. Of course, these white hats didn't. They were all like, yeah, we should definitely penalize SEO companies that have somehow find out algorithmically that site A was optimized with black hat by SEO company B, and so site A gets a penalty maybe, but SEO company B also gets the penalty. And John Mueller, instead of saying, we can't do that, he said that'd be really hard. He said, but we're looking into it, or it would be really good if we could do that. So I was kind of like, oh, that's terrifying. Just imagine the false positives they would have there as well. So that was very scary on the scary front. And here's the other scary thing, is that they John Mueller and a few other white hat numbskulls, people, mentioned that it would be great if Google offered a SEO certification. And this is not the first time this has come up. In a hangout with Pierre Farr and John Mueller, it came up probably almost a year ago now. And luckily, Pierre Farr, being the arrogant prig he is, he immediately was like, oh, we only offer certifications for products we have. And SEO is not a product, therefore we do not offer a certification for it. And he kind of browbeat John Mueller into saying, oh, yeah, that's right, we would never do that. And then they quickly moved on. I was like, whew, thank goodness. I said phew for a number of reasons. Not the least is which that it would become a branding nightmare for any SEO consultant, because they'd have to get it, and who knows how much it would cost and what we'd have to do to keep it. And then the backstabbing would just go crazy. It would not be good for the industry, right? For white hats either. They don't realize how bad it would be for them if Google actually did this. But this time when they talked about it, to my terrifying surprise, John Mueller went, yeah, that's an interesting idea. Maybe we should think about that. I was screaming, no! It was like the end of the world. So, so we have that to look forward to. So watch out for that. So you heard it from me first. I'm warning you that they're thinking about it. And John Mueller's response was what I was hoping for. Like, no, we would never do that. Never mind. Next question. He was like, And I've heard him say, a number of times, and later on, this disavow text comes out. Like, that happens, right? Like, he talks with them, they all talk, and they all decide what to do. That's, as far as Google is concerned, that is the majority reason why John Mueller has these hangouts, is to get ideas from people. And he quite often will poll people. What's going on? What do you think? What do you think about this? What should we do? And so he does use this to collect information, and probably as far as Google is concerned, that's probably the value add for them, for him wasting his time and spending it doing this, because they sure as hell do not care about helping people. So, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I really hope not, but I just thought I would terrify the crap out of you. Welcome to my nightmare. So anyway, that's all the interesting leaks I've got for now. Those are some different ones, but I thought they were interesting, and I want to share them with you. I've got a whole couple pages more like that, and more interesting experiments and stuff like that coming too. So if you have any questions about anything I talked about, by all means, if you need any SEO questions or SEO consultation, please contact me at joshbachynski@gmail.com. My YouTube is youtube.com/jbachins, JBACHYNS, where I have tons of SEO videos, interesting ones, penguin, whatever else, hummingbird. I've been talking about all that stuff. And you can also follow me at Twitter at joshbachynski. So good luck in the SERPs, and I hope you're not as terrified as I am. Bye-bye.